Good evening and welcome to NTD UK News. I'm Stuart Lees. The top stories tonight. The government says it's working at full capacity to airlift as many people as possible out of Afghanistan before the evacuation deadline. Though one expert tells us the real deadline is only a couple of days away. Germany says it will continue to help people leave Afghanistan after the US troops leave, while other European countries have already ended their operations. And the NSPCC says online grooming crimes have increased nearly 70% in the last 3 years, and Instagram is the app most commonly used by offenders. The government has vowed to use every hour left to airlift as many people as possible out of Afghanistan after the Prime Minister's call for an extension of the evacuation deadline was rejected by the United States. NTD's Trevor Piper brings us this report.
With the August the 31st deadline approaching fast, the Foreign Secretary says the government is working full speed to evacuate as many people as possible from Kabul.
So the system is operating at full speed, at full capacity, and we'll use every last remaining hour and day to get everyone we can back. The British nationals, the Afghans who work so loyally for us, we're getting the achieving scholars back, also women's rights defenders and journalists.
Britain had wanted more time for its evacuation efforts, but US President Biden rejected the request at an emergency G7 summit on Tuesday. He cited the growing risk of terrorist attacks from a group known as ISIS-K, an ISIS affiliate in Afghanistan. Ministers have made clear that evacuation efforts will no longer be sustainable without the American presence at the airport, but the Prime Minister says the government will continue its evacuation effort until the last moment.
We will go on right up until the last moment that we can. But you've heard what the President of the United States has had to say. You've heard what the Taliban have said. And I think you've got to understand the context in which we're doing this. We're confident we can get thousands more out. But
the Minister of Defence says more than 10,000 people have been airlifted out of Afghanistan, including 5,000 Afghans. The RAF still needs to evacuate nearly 2,000 Afghan interpreters and other staff who worked for Britain. Trevor Piper, NTD News.
The US has said it will stick to the original withdrawal deadline of 31st of August. A Chatham House analyst says the real deadline is in the next couple of days. NTD's Joanna Conway has the story.
A security analyst from Chatham House says the practical deadline for the end of evacuations from Afghanistan is within the next couple of days. Patricia Lewis says evacuations are not a simple process of packing up, where you can stop precisely at the deadline.
There's a huge amount of stuff that has to be done, including getting all the people out who are doing the job and all the equipment, all of the stuff that they need to get out that they don't want the Taliban to get hold of, names and all of that, and making sure it's all done properly, because to do otherwise would be awful.
US President Biden declared on Tuesday he's sticking to his August the 31st deadline for completing the pullout. Lewis says that means the Allies can't do too much.
You know, all of the Allies are highly dependent on the US for military cover, particularly air cover. And so they can't put their own people at risk. So it really depends on the US when the US starts packing up.
Lewis also analyses why Biden decided not to reopen the agreement reached by the previous administration.
But if he did that, presumably there were a whole set of risks associated with it, including the Taliban saying you cannot trust the Americans to abide by their agreements.
She says there will be more risks involved, such as Iran reneging on the nuclear agreement. Joanna Conway, NTD News.
European countries are rushing to evacuate people from Afghanistan as the 31st of August deadline for the withdrawal of foreign troops draws closer. This comes after the US president the day before rejected calls from allies to extend the deadline. NTD's Trevor Piper brings us more.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel told Parliament on Wednesday that Germany will try to continue to help people leave Afghanistan even after a deadline that was agreed upon with the Taliban.
There is intense work going on at all levels these days on how we can then create ways in which we can continue to protect those who helped us, among other things through civilian use of Kabul airport.
She said with over 4,000 people flown out, it's already the largest evacuation operation in the history of the German army.
We will continue the evacuation operation for as long as possible in order also to make it possible for Afghans who work with us for security, freedom, the rule of law and development to leave the country.
On Tuesday, at a G7 emergency online summit, Germany, alongside the UK, pressed for a longer window to continue evacuations. However, US President Joe Biden stuck to the 31st of August deadline, citing security risks for US troops. Following the meeting, the European Union appealed to the Taliban.
We call on the new Afghan authorities to allow free passage to all foreign and Afghan citizens who wish to get to the airport.
The European Commission President said most EU staff, including Afghans, have been evacuated. France said on Wednesday it will continue evacuations as long as possible, but will likely end them in the hours or days ahead of the deadline.
Given the extreme tension there, the difficulties to access the airport, the number of people to evacuate, and the announcement of the pulling back of US forces, these evacuations are a true race against time.
Poland has already ended its evacuations from Afghanistan. An official said on Wednesday his nation made the decision after consulting with US and British officials. The White House said on Wednesday US and coalition troops evacuated over 19,000 people from Kabul on Tuesday, raising the total number airlifted out of Afghanistan since mid-August to over 80,000. Concern is growing that many could be left behind to an uncertain fate under the country's new Taliban rulers. Trevor Piper, NTD News.
Instagram was the most commonly used app by offenders of online grooming crimes in the past year. That's according to an investigation by children's charity NSPCC. NTD's Eddie Aitken has the details.
Figures released by NSPCC show online grooming crimes recorded by the police have jumped nearly 70% in the past 3 years. The charity found more than 5,000 online grooming offences were recorded between April 2020 and March 2021. This is based on information from 42 police forces in England and Wales, and is an increase of 69% from the same period 3 years ago. Over the last 12 months, apps owned by Facebook were used in almost half of the offences where means of communication was known. Among these, Instagram was the most commonly used. Snapchat was also named in over a quarter of cases. NSPCC says design flaws on social media platforms are being exploited by offenders, enabling younger users to be targeted. Facebook says online grooming is abhorrent behaviour and is determined to continue developing new ways to prevent, detect and respond to abuse. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Scientists in Belgium are trialling an unusual approach to aid in the recovery of COVID-19 patients. NTD's Joy Duguid brings us more on this.
This black llama is called Winter. Researchers in Belgium derive antibodies from its blood. They hope to help COVID-19 patients recover more quickly. Llamas and other members of the camel family are unique among mammals.
So llamas have a particular kind of the second kind of antibody as compared to humans, for example. They're called heavy chain only antibodies, so they're much more simple than the ones that we have. And because of that, we can easily take a little snippet of that protein and glue it up to other proteins. It's like a bit like Lego of proteins that you can do with them much more easily than with our antibodies.
The special properties of members of the camel family were discovered in Brussels 30 years ago. The small antibodies they create have some advantages. They're easy to produce and store at a low cost.
They are very stable, which means you can put them at room temperature without any issues. And on top of that, their small size, smaller than conventional antibodies, allows them to reach targets, to reach part of the virus, which is difficult to access with conventional antibodies. So the size really matters there.
Silence says the antibodies work well on mice and hamsters. Clinical trials have been launched to determine whether they could help COVID-19 patients.
The studies we're doing at the moment are focusing on patients who are in hospital because there's a high unmet medical need. These are patients that are ill, and we want to help them recover more quickly and be discharged from hospital.
Tasago says data is encouraging on the antibodies' ability to counter more infectious variants of the virus. They hope to trial them on patients with suppressed immune systems. Joy Dugid, NTD News.
A tour operator reports a significant surge in bookings to red and amber list destinations since the government's international travel list announcement on 15th of July. NTD's Neil Woodrow talks with the CEO.
UK tour operator Blue Bay Travel says they've seen consistent inquiries and bookings to both red and amber list countries. In particular, an 87% uplift in bookings to amber destinations. The surge comes since the UK government's international travel list countries announcement on July 15th.
When government give us an update on traffic lights or the principle behind traffic lights, that does have an exceptional effect on consumers and consumer sentiment. And those countries moving from red to amber or amber to green, move very positively, and we're definitely seeing that with the likes of sales to Dubai, sales to Barbados.
He said bookings to Dubai are up 500% for the 5 weeks after the government announcement, compared to the 5 weeks prior. Another popular long-haul destination currently on the red list is Tobago, which has seen a rise of 616%. Roland told me about another trend.
A longer-term trend is that where people are booking further out, so from winter into 2022, they will book for red destinations where they can see exceptional value.
Roland says no better example is the Maldives, which has had a growth of 500% on bookings in August against the same month in 2019. And as for the outlook on short-haul bookings, he says the summer will likely continue to be disappointing at just 30 to 50% of usual levels. But for long-haul,
I actually think from September onwards, if the government continues to open up and be sensible about the rules they're issuing, particularly testing, and the costs of testing, then we should have a decent winter. And I do see a significant recovery of bookings in 2022, back to there or thereabouts the 2019 levels.
The next government update to the travel list is expected on Thursday this week. Neil Woodrow, NTD News.
Still to come, residents in Turkey air concerns over a wave of escaping Afghans illegally crossing the border from Iran. There's that and more after the break. Over 7,000 evacuees from Afghanistan are temporarily living in tents and hangars at the US Ramstein airbase. Soldiers are providing food, water and first aid, and for the children, a bit of fun. NTD's Eddie Aiken has more on this.
At the US Ramstein airbase in Germany, planes of evacuees from Afghanistan continue to fly in. 37 planes so far. Soldiers are providing food, water and first aid to the arrivals.
People have been on planes for a very long period of time, sitting on tarmacs for a long period of time, hot weather where they're coming from. So I would say the majority of what we're seeing are related to dehydration and heat injuries.
He says only a couple of evacuees need psychiatric help to deal with trauma.
Generally speaking, I will say the people coming off the aircraft appear to be extremely resilient. They're very happy to be here on German soil. They seem to be very appreciative and actually in very good spirits, which, considering everything they've been through in the past week or so, is really great to see.
And after a long and often perilous trip, the children also had a bit of fun. Soldiers entertained them with ukulele sessions and ball games. A baby that was delivered on a US military plane last weekend was discharged from the hospital. In total, over 7,000 evacuees are temporarily living in tents and hangars at the airbase. The base has a capacity of 10,000. The civil engineer who helped build the tent city said hundreds of volunteers came out to help last weekend. From Ramstein, evacuees are being taken to further locations by civilian aircraft. In Düsseldorf, a former Afghan mayor spoke out following her evacuation to Germany. She was one of the country's first female mayors and said she was aware of the concerns over immigration in her host country.
Me and my family, we are not here as migrants. I'm just here to raise the voice of those 99% of people in Afghanistan who are not able to come out of their houses, those women who are not able to work, those women who are not able to speak out.
Her journey via Turkey was facilitated by the German army. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Turkish police have detained thousands of Afghan migrants in recent weeks. Migrants trekked through Iran to enter Turkey's eastern province of Van, raising concern among local residents. NTD's Joy Duguid has the story.
The Taliban victory in Afghanistan has raised concerns in Turkey. It has ramped up security on its border with Iran, aiming to prevent a new influx of migrants. About 50 Afghans are sheltering in a drainage tunnel in East Turkey, evading border guards and security searchers.
I want to live in Turkey. I asked the Turkish government to please help us. Please don't deny us and let us stay in your nation. We will do no wrong.
This man is from Kabul. He says he left Afghanistan a month ago, paying over £700 to traffickers. He says he wants to get to Istanbul, find work and send money back to his family. Some Turkish people say they don't want Afghans in their country.
We don't want to see them here. We don't want a single Afghan to be in Turkey. With the flow of this migration, people no longer have peace. There is a rise in theft and unemployment.
In recent weeks, Turkish police have detained thousands of Afghan migrants. It's estimated 300,000 are in the country. Some of them are sent to a repatriation centre in East Turkey. They will not be sent back to their country for now because of the turmoil there. Joy Duguid, NTD News.
Tourism is slowly picking up in Prague after restrictions have eased. But domestic visitors remain the lifeblood of the city as foreigners still face heavy travel restrictions. NTD's Trevor Piper brings us the story.
In the Czech Republic, tourism seems to be back to normal. Restaurants and hotels are open, people are in the streets. But for those that cater to tourists, it's anything but business as usual.
So we are still under big pressure of COVID. We have naturally, we see now some increases, but if we compare it with 2019, so the year before COVID, we are at the 30%. So we still lack tourists, and to be honest, the numbers that we see now are mostly done by the Czech tourists.
Herget says in 2019 the Czech Republic set a new record of nearly 22 million arrivals. But in 2021 the number of visitors is down 70%. Long-haul international tourists are down even further. Tour guide Eva Trikolova has worked 15 years in the industry. She's only led 2 tours in the last 18 months.
It was depressing. It was hard to get over with. But, you know, we always have a hope that things will change, because that's what happens in this world. Everything changes all the time.
She's looking for part-time work outside of tourism until it improves. 2 people on Eva's tour are mother and daughter from the US.
Back in the deep dark of last winter, when everything felt closed down and miserable, we needed something to look forward to, and this is one of our favorite places. And so we found a great ticket deal and picked it up in January, hoping that we'd be able to use it. And we didn't know until the very last minute that we actually would be able to get all the way here. So,
changing travel restrictions are putting pressure on Czech hotels. The Maximilian in Prague has seen occupancy rates fall 90% from 2019.
We wish it would stay the same as it is right now, for example. Because we know that last year it looked quite promising during the summertime, and then in September we got closed, and we remained closed until Christmas. So if everything stays like that for the rest of the year, I think that's good for us and we can see some light at the end of the tunnel.
Herget is hoping for an EU-wide solution to ease travel into Europe.
Every week we have different rules for different countries. Then it's very confusing for tourists, and we need one solution for Europe that's open for safe countries, and we can work on it.
Until then, the city of 100 spires may miss its crowds. Trevor Piper, NTD News.
Glamping is on the rise in Russia. One site has combined upmarket camping with learning about the traditional culture of Kazakhstan. NTD's Anna Rodriguez has more on this.
A campsite 280 miles east of Moscow is offering a new kind of a holiday. The owners of the site came from Kazakhstan and brought part of their country with them. They set up a Kazakh settlement where visitors can learn about the culture and lifestyle.
I and my business partner are from Kazakhstan. We went through it, and you can never take Kazakhstan out of your heart, because what is taught when young people are brought up there is the attitude towards people, the attitude towards elders, hospitality. That's all we have here.
The site was set up mainly as a farm in 2015. But the Kazakh glamping experience started to attract tourists. Soon a tent city was born. It is now both a farm and a place to stay.
There is lamb, there is pork, there is veal. There are vegetables and fruits that grow in our greenhouse, in the garden. Therefore, I believe that people coming here not only get pleasure, but they also get some health because it's not grown with some chemicals. Everything is grown in this soil.
A nice camping costs the same as a budget hotel. It includes basic facilities such as electricity, hot water and a shower, and a few extras such as Kazakh sauna and swimming pool. Glamping holidays are becoming increasingly popular amongst the Russians amid COVID restrictions.
At the moment, due to the coronavirus situation, most countries are closed. There were, of course, plans to go to Italy, to Spain, but we decided to choose this type of vacation. Give it a try. In general, this is also a decent type of vacation. Moreover, it is quite inexpensive.
The Russian Federal Tourist Agency expects domestic tourism to reach pre-crisis levels by the end of 2021. Anna Rodriguez, NTD News.
A Greek cave renowned for its extraordinary rock formations has a new tour guide. Named after the daughter of Greek god Zeus and speaking 33 different languages. NTD's Eddie Aiken brings us this report.
My name is Persephone.
Meet Persephone, a robot that shows people the wonders of Greece's Alistrati cave. The robot speaks 33 languages and was named after the daughter of Greek god Zeus.
It was surprising for me. I've never experienced such a thing. Actually, honestly, I prefer a live guide, but it's interesting doing it this way. And I like the pace of the robot. It is going slowly so I can look around. It's fine.
Persephone cost £100,000. Nikos Kortalis was inspired to create the robot when he saw one on TV guiding visitors around the gallery.
This robot's main characteristics are it's able to guide visitors in 33 languages, and it can guide in 3 different languages at the same time. It is capable of answering visitors' questions. It goes through the first 150 meters of the cave, so it does 3 stops, and for the rest of the cave tour, the visitors are guided by a human tour guide.
Although fascinating to many, it's unlikely robot tour guides will completely replace their human counterparts.
Robots at some time in the future will take over many jobs, but I believe they cannot replace humans everywhere. That's what the visitors also say, most of them at least. The robot is interesting, original, but can't substitute for the human contact with the guide and the conversation we can have on the way back, this interaction.
Persephone is not the only technology in use. There is also a phone app that shows a microorganism unique to the cave. It was left behind by bats that lived there until the cave opened to visitors. The app also gives information about the myth of Persephone. According to legend, Persephone was picking flowers near the cave when the god of the underworld abducted her. Future plans for the cave include a virtual reality museum and a teaching area to give students lessons in robotics. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Adelaide-based theatre performer Joanne Hartstone was better prepared than many for August's festival bonanza, as lockdown delays have meant that Edinburgh's Fringe coincides for the first time with Hollywood's rival event. Francesca Lineck reports.
Alrighty. The Edinburgh Fringe and the Hollywood Fringe festivals are coinciding for the first time this August. Luckily, Australia-based theatre performer Joanne Hartstone knows a way to perform at both. She and her partner Tom set up a virtual theatre platform called Black Box Live, where their shows are available live and on demand.
Obviously, live performance has been really difficult to achieve for a multitude of reasons. So we have pivoted into the digital world and we are embracing hybrid digital theatre, which means theatre for a live audience, both in the room and also online, watching from home or wherever they may be in the world.
I was nervous. I don't mind admitting it. Hell, I was terrified. 5 minutes is the shortest window in which you can sell yourself.
The couple hopes this new way of working will make theatre more accessible and able to compete in the growing streaming space, while also saving travel expenses for creatives. But the new way of working doesn't come without its challenges.
I'm both acting for camera and I'm also acting for stage, acting for a live audience. So thinking about my stagecraft, but also having to make sure that I'm hitting my marks very precisely, because I'm not just hitting a spotlight, I'm also hitting a camera angle. I'm also having to make eye contact with the camera at a certain point and following Tom's very clever tally light system so that I know which camera is live when, if I'm doing direct address. I'm having to consider so many more factors while still delivering, a good performance.
That's the news for today, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Stuart Lees. Thank you for watching our daily news show on YouTube. You can also watch our other programming on channel 190 on Sky TV or on Freeview via channel box on channel 271. In the meantime though, please give this video a like and hit subscribe to our channel. Have a good day.